I'm a contract worker for a secret corporation that hunts supernatural creatures. Another damn cave.
Disclaimer: the content presented in this video is purely fictional and intended for entertainment purposes only.
I had enough money for rent but not to heat my apartment. I've been curled up on my bed for days under every scrap of fabric I own. My last job paid some bills but also ruined my left hand. I only got feeling back after days after all my other cuts healed. The freezing cold of my apartment didn't help. Freeze to death or die by some sort of monster? Every day I had a terrible choice to make. I hadn't eaten a decent meal in a while as well. I looked through some regular job postings desperate to find one that would accept someone who hadn't finished high school, no such luck. I then went to my email to find one of the less dangerous requests. I had tried to leave my contract work behind. Here I thought I had a choice in living a normal life. I nearly starved to death in the past 2 years and not making a dent in my debt from picking the normal route. I settled on a somewhat simple request. A great number of animals had started to disappear near an abandoned mine. All sorts of critters liked to take over places like that. The job offer was to report back any information on what sort of creature lurked in the darkness. A very heavy bonus was offered to anyone who could kill this mystery monster. A few bucks for taking some photos of supernatural activity and then getting the hell out of there? I could do that. A pit of dread came over my stomach the moment I replied to the email. Deep down I knew this wouldn't be so easy. Nothing ever was. At least this time I was sent in front of the mine instead of needing to hike through the woods. The corporation often used magic to transport people to job sites. Magic was seriously useful. It's a shame humans can't handle it in the same way supernatural creatures could. I bought a new coat and boots from my last job. I wanted to get a fancy supernatural floating light, but of course, I couldn't afford one. I stuck to a simple flashlight instead. I shouldn't come across any members of the public, so I rented out a machete as a weapon for this job. I wasn't looking forward to another cave after the last job. I shuddered in the cold wind that drove me inside the opening of the mine. If my luck held, I could snap a photo or two and then head home. I wasn't an elite-trained monster hunter. Best to leave the big creatures to the agents who were always in demand. The air inside was strangely warm. I kept one hand hovering over the handle of my weapon as I scanned the area with my flashlight. My skin crawled thinking back to the skeleton monsters. For the first few feet, there hadn't been any signs of any living creatures inside the mine. Doing these sorts of jobs was much easier with a partner. My chest hurt as I heard only my footsteps echoing in the small space. I was lucky my legs could still support my weight. I really needed to eat more if I was going to keep up with the contract work. A fork in the pathway caused me to pause. I listened to any sounds giving me a hint as to where to go first. A small sound of ripping water came from the right path. Most creatures needed to drink water like the rest of us. I followed the sound, the back of my neck starting to sweat from stress. I came into an open area so wide my flashlight couldn't reach fully into the darkness. A few deep scratches had been carved into the floor. Tracing my fingers over the marks, I tried to figure out what kind of animal or monster made these marks. 4 lines, thin cuts deep into the rock. No signs of blood, but there was discoloration in the dirt on the floor. I squinted at the trail, realizing something had been dragged deeper into the mine. There weren't any tracks or footprints to give away who or what had done the dragging. A rock came loose somewhere, causing me to jump. I directed my flashlight across the floor looking for the source of the disturbance. Another small rock fell, this time landing in front of my feet. I brought my beam of light upwards to the ceiling far too late. 8 eyes reflected the light down. My hand grabbed the handle of the machete at my side, but I wasn't fast enough to act. The massive creature dropped down on me, a set of needle-sharp fangs digging into my shoulder. My entire body was locked up. I couldn't even scream. For a few seconds, I could blink my eyes, so I forced them open to get a good look at what just got the jump on me. It was a spider the size of a car. I took in the shape and patterns to try and identify what type of supernatural creature it was. When I felt my eyelids locking up, I forced them shut. The creature got to work wrapping my body tightly in thick webbing. The constant spinning as it bound my arms made my stomach roll. Then I was knocked over to be dragged along the floor to who knows where. After a long while of painful dragging, I felt myself lifted off the ground. More of the threads were added to stick the creature's new meal to the cave wall. I was thankful that the massive spider forced the webs on my torso and mostly spared my face. It might know not to suffocate its prey if it wanted a fresh meal. My shoulder throbbed in pain and my body hurt like hell from whatever I'd been injected with. The only good news was I was almost certain I knew what kind of monster attacked me. Humans make pets out of anything. Some creatures take advantage of that. On occasion, a supernatural spider egg will appear in a batch with otherwise normal eggs. But only if humans are the ones breeding and taking care of the spiders. For the first few months, the spider appears normal. But then it'll grow at a rapid rate, soon escaping to devour small animals out in the wild. There are a few theories of why this happens, however, so far no one has been able to agree on the reason. If this was that kind of spider, I was in luck. Their venom isn't overly harmful to humans. It should work its way out of my system in an hour or so. People guessed that the spiders didn't want to kill the humans raising them, so evolved to not be able to take them out with a single bite. I was dealing with a huge spider though. Those legs could crush me if they wanted. Just because I could move an hour after I was bitten didn't mean I was in the clear. When I could feel my fingers again, I wriggled, testing my binds. I slowly opened my eyes, surprised to see some light inside the rocky space. Looking down, I saw an abandoned flashlight that was not mine, casting shadows across the wall. This place was where the spider stored its food. I saw so many smaller bundles of webbing stuck to the wall. All appeared to have long since dead animals inside. I tried to look upwards to see anything else. I did notice a larger bundle above my head, but I wasn't able to fully see it. I thought I saw a pair of shoes through the webbing. I had hoped that only myself had been dragged into this mess. I kept wiggling, which turned out to be a mistake. The spider was cheap when it came to webbing. I came loose off the wall, my stomach in my throat as I fell headfirst towards the floor. My skull wasn't hard enough to take a hit to the stone floor at this height. Something caught around my ankles in the last seconds. I jerked upwards and then started to spin as I hung from a single lifeline. I let out a long breath, surprised I didn't scream. Just as I recovered, a bundle of webbing fell off the cave wall the same way as I did. They were caught by their ankles as well. I let out a small sound of shock from expecting any movement to be the spider monster ready to finish me off. When our spins synced up, I made eye contact with a person I never expected to see again. What a coincidence! We spoke at the same time, our voices echoing down the mineshaft. We kept slowly spinning. When I knew the spider wasn't coming and we were facing each other for a few seconds, I spoke again. "How's Lucas doing?" I asked the upside-down August. "Oh, he's great. He made a friend at daycare," he replied, his smile not matching our situation. I let us slowly spin in silence. August being here was a huge help. He wasn't human and I bet getting through these webs would be easy for him. But how did he get caught in the first place? When we came back around, I got a good look at his face. He was chipper but looked exhausted. Dark bags were under his eyes and his cheeks showed he'd lost some weight. "What are you doing here?" I asked him. "I've been taking a lot of jobs lately. Lucas seems like he might want to be an artist when he grows up," August explained. "So, you're saving for college?" I said, a little shocked. I swear this guy treated this boy better than any human in his life. I didn't know much about what happened to Lucas before August took him in. But I doubted his real parents spent the money to feed him, let alone plan for his future. Yes, if that's what he wants. I also need to save enough so he's set for life if he becomes an artist. Shit is expensive. I agreed with him on that. It was hard to believe the man I'd seen eat someone's brain out of their skull was a better parent than most. August would let Lucas chase his dreams but also have a backup in case that career choice didn't pay the bills. If my mother was even half as responsible as August, I wouldn't have become a contract worker hunting down monsters. At the very least, I would have finished high school. I tried to get free and started to feel some of the webbing stretch a little. But I couldn't reach my machete to cut the threads. It would take me hours to get out if I was lucky. The spider might get hungry before I make any progress. "Are you a virgin?" August asked without warning. I was so focused on my struggle I didn't notice August had changed until my face was near his. 4 deep cuts appeared in his skin with his eyes turning a pitch black. A tube-like tongue with a pointed end came from his mouth, stretching for reach me. I shouted. "Is guy eat brains?" Finally, it was over. After he ate his fill, he started towards me. He cleaned enough blood from his face to show how much a good meal did for him. The wound I gave long since healed. "Fucking, ow," he repeated to get his point across. "Self-defense. I muttered. Bullshit. To his credit, he only punched my shoulder. August was oddly forgiving. He made me a deal that if I helped cook dinner for Lucas that night, he would drop the whole stabbing him thing. I didn't mind. I could at the very least get cleaned up in a bathroom larger than 2 feet wide. We reported the spider had been killed but admitted we weren't aware that another may be still inside the mine. Seeing money in my account was a nice feeling. It almost made nearly getting eaten by a spider worth it. I wasn't the best cook, but better than August it seemed. So far, he's been ordering out or reheating pre-made meals. Lucas needed something better than that. I told August he needed to learn how to cook, but with him so busy with his job it made it hard taking on another task. At least the takeout he ordered was full meals and not all fast food. I was amazed at how well Lucas was doing. He didn't talk much, which was understandable. But he made the effort to make eye contact. He didn't smile much either. At least not with me. August was the only person who got a real smile out of the kid. Before I left for the night, Lucas met me by the door. To my shock, he hurried over and hugged my leg. "Bye, Uncle," came a tiny voice. He rushed off, clearly embarrassed by the exchange. If I didn't care about that kid before, now I very much did. But my face dropped when I looked up to see August overjoyed over the new development. So far, we bumped into each other by chance. I now worried there was no longer going to be any luck involved. I felt doomed to now see August far more often than I would like. Here I just wanted to do a few jobs to cover my bills. Monster hunting is tricky. No matter what, it'll take over your life regardless of how hard you try to avoid it. I'm a contract worker for a secret corporation that hunts supernatural creatures. Going shopping is a nightmare. When you hunt monsters for a living, there are 2 hard facts. You'll die young, and you'll ruin all your clothing. My new jacket had been shredded during my last job. I learned how to sew and to mostly remove bloodstains. My old jacket was going to be for hunting only. I wanted a new coat. One to wear outside of my contract work. Since I moved around a lot, I kept what I owned down to at most 2 boxes. It was a little sad that a new jacket was a highlight in my life. A somewhat high-end store was closing and having a big sale. The weather that day was awful. Wet and cold. It hadn't snowed yet, but it was so unpleasant not too many people were out. When I walked inside the store, I found it to be nearly empty. I had expected it to be busy with others trying to scoop up deals. A lone cashier stood behind a counter counting down the minutes to the end of her shift. Another woman was browsing the discounted sweaters. Her face was covered by large glasses and a massive red scarf. I passed by a man wearing a long trench coat waiting by the door. He didn't look to be shopping, but rather looking outside as if seeing if the weather might clear up. There was a bit of everything in the store. Since the sale was just announced, the clothing hadn't been picked over yet. If I played my cards right, I could afford a new jacket and a sweater. I ended up near the girl with the scarf as she added another sweater to her pile. I felt eyes on my back, causing me to turn to look over my shoulder at her. She was squinting behind her glasses as if she recognized me but didn't know from where. I glanced at her, then went back to shopping. She was cute, but her half-hidden face didn't ring any bells. She ended up behind me at the cashier after I picked out my 2 items. She didn't try to speak with me, so she must have been staring at me for some other reason. I wish my life was simple. I wanted a day where I went shopping, made dinner, and got to sleep early. I had no such luck. When another person entered the store, we didn't pay any attention. The newcomer hunched over, his face mostly covered by his collar. When the cashier opened the register to hand over my change, the new man dressed in black startled us all. "Phones and cash now." He ordered, "After you face giant spiders and other nightmares, a gun pointed in your direction is a little less frightening." I let out a sigh, disappointed in the day. I just wanted a damn jacket. Still, I was thankful this was just a robbery and not a supernatural threat. The cashier froze in fear at the sight of the gun. The woman behind me acted in the same way. I didn't want to put my hands in my pockets for my phone to give this guy any ideas about shooting. If he wanted to go through my now empty pockets, he could come over here and do it. I kept my hands raised, more upset over losing the new coat funds than over the possibility of getting shot. A roll of thunder sounded outside as heavy rain started to hit the windows. The newcomer had walked by the man by the door. He took no notice of him even after he calmly made his way over behind the gunman. "Enough of that noise," the other man said as he raised his hand. The thief froze, clear fear in his eyes. I saw him struggling to move his body without success. My stomach sank as it dawned on me this was turning into something far more complicated than a simple stick-up. My fears were confirmed when a new pair came in from outside. At first, it looked like a person had come in with their dog. They dripped cold rain onto the tile floor, panting as if he had run 10 miles. Blood mixed in with the water. One raised his face to show 4 deep claw marks across it. His clothing had been torn. He appeared to have lost a fight with a large cat. The cashier screamed as she made a run for it. The gun went off near her head. She stopped studying, too scared to move again. The woman with glasses rushed over to quickly wrap her arms around the other girl using her body as a shield. Their reaction was normal considering what the mystery man brought with him wasn't a dog, a thin creature hunched on the floor dripping rainwater. Its skin was light gray, and it looked like a mixture between a human and a bat. The face had a mouth far too large for its skull and tiny eyes. Large bat ears darted back at the sound of the scream. As it shook the rainwater from its body, I noticed a black ring tattoo around its neck. A hunter caught me. I got away, but we need to move. The bleeding man said as he caught his breath. Seriously, what are the chances? A botched robbery and now these creatures? I just wanted to buy a damn coat. You certainly got yourself in a mess. It appeared we were in luck. You can heal yourself by eating one of these 3. By the looks of it, we have one for each of us. We just need to leave enough for the police to assume this man had done the crime. The man who spoke was tall. He adjusted a wide-brim hat on his head. He was the leader of the small group. He also used some sort of power to control the gunman. If we tried to run, we would get shot. If we stayed, we would get eaten. The man with the hat directed his attention in my direction. His eyes shone yellow to study the people in front of him. You don't appear very worried about the change in events. He said in a dangerous tone. Crap. If he thought I was a hunter or someone who knew about supernatural threats, he may take me seriously. You're a cop, do something. The girl in the glasses said from behind me. I knew her voice from somewhere but not her face. Her lie helped me out. I'm sure most police could handle the weaker creatures. However, you needed specialized information to truly stay alive against the supernatural. That one statement made this man think I was just a person who could stay calm under pressure. I looked between the 4 of them. The man with the hat didn't look worried for the well-being of his partner when he arrived bleeding. They weren't friends. Just working together. The smaller creature was being controlled by some sort of contract and wouldn't attack without an order. The gun was also being controlled. These 2 wanted a fresh meal, so no sending the monster to kill us or shoot us unless it was necessary. I worried about the girls. I needed to keep the attention on me to give the girls a chance to get away. 3 against 1 wasn't ideal though, when I first got into this job. I got some good, yet simple advice. You should be afraid of monsters, just don't let that fear control you. Your greatest strength is your head, use it. And always stay on your feet. I don't want to die a virgin. I muttered under my breath, but loud enough for those 2 to hear me. I wasn't one, but they didn't know that. For some reason, virgin blood gave a great deal of power to creatures when consumed. Because of that, it was coveted. The injured man took the bait. He needed to be healed up, so he didn't let himself consider I was lying. He charged forward, his face changing into something with bat-like features. Since he was already injured, I was able to sidestep his first attack. He stumbled and then regained his footing just as my hands landed on a weapon. I took hold of a small table with a few items on it to hit him with it as hard as I could. He got knocked back into the floor, his already beaten body refusing to work. The hat man came next, yellow eyes glowing in amusement. I'd already grabbed my next tool for this fight. He came at me with a set of claws out. I expected this and spun in the ball of my foot. My heart pounding in my ears. If I slipped up, it wasn't just my life on the line. As I got behind him, I guided a pair of jeans across the front of his chest so both legs were over his shoulders. I then kicked his legs out from under him and grabbed a hold of the bottom of the legs before he fell. By some miracle, I had him on the ground, my knee in the middle of his back and the jeans around his neck. I crossed the legs to tighten the material. With my knee pushing down, I pulled up, choking him with a pair of skinny jeans. That pissed him off. A lot. I was tossed off as a large pair of bat wings burst from his back, ripping his long wool jacket. I fell hard against the ground, a jolt of pain racing from my elbow to my brain. He frantically gasped for air, his hands fumbling to remove the pants from around his neck. I used that time to get over to the still frozen thief to grab his gun. Normally guns didn't do much against creatures. It only pissed them off. I only wanted to buy time. Not when. The hat flew from his head, his body a blur of motion. A set of fangs sunk deep into my shoulder. It hurt like hell, but I wanted this to happen. Sort of. I needed him as close as possible so I wouldn't miss him. I pressed the gun directly into his now large, pointed ear and fired. He jerked back, screaming from pain. Blood came from the wound splattering against the ground. He rolled, shrieking but not dead. The first attack got up since, claws out about to finish the job. I emptied the gun in his direction. Who knows how many shots I landed? I'll admit, I'm very bad with guns. At least that slowed him down. Fucking kill him already. One of them shouted at the smaller monster. The man darting back bleeding from new wounds. The creature listened to the order as best as it could. Its clawed feet kept slipping on the wet tile flooring. I took another chance and wrapped my arms around its neck, a set of teeth sinking into my forearm. Without any weapons, this creature normally outclassed me. I only had a few seconds to pull the last move I had available. I focused my sight on the black ring, seeing the dark tainted magic flowing out from the forced leash. I took hold of the dark power. A flash of nearly unbearable pain came from my hands. Touching raw magic was like grabbing a hold of white-holed metal. Instead of burning your skin, you burn something else inside of you. I gritted my teeth. My entire body screamed at me to let go. Instead, I pulled. The band lifted from the creature's neck ever so slightly. This hurt the poor thing as well, but when it realized what I was doing, I felt a force coming from the smaller body pressing against the ring. With both of us pushing and pulling, the band broke, sending a shockwave that knocked everyone off their feet. A few seconds passed. I hurt. That was an understatement. My body felt like I'd been hit by 10 trucks in a row. My left arm refused to move, and I thought it had been blown off. I looked over to see my hand had turned black from the tainted magic I touched. It would need to work through my system. Until then, I couldn't use that hand. The creature was in rough shape. It at least had enough strength to crawl beside me. The tiny black eyes looked up at my face as it rested its head on my shoulder. We knew we were going to be dead soon, but it was thankful we wouldn't die a slave. I sat up to scan the room. The girls were smart enough to take cover behind the counter when the magic backfired across the room. Black marks stained parts of the floors and walls. I really should not have lived through that blast. The thief and the injured man were knocked out. The man who now lacked his hat was stronger. He got to his feet, his face red with rage, and his yellow eyes glowing as he let his body slip into a more monstrous form. I'm going to slaughter every single person in this room and make you watch. You vile reject, piece of. Yet another person entered the building and cut off his rant. He wasted no time. Within a second, he covered the distance and punched the angry creature so hard in the face that it sent his body flying to the other end of the store. I sat stunned, wondering again, what were the chances? As I got back to my feet, I saw the girl with the glasses come rushing over, a dagger in her hand. It looked to be a weapon to kill supernatural creatures. I ignored that fact to address the person who just come in to save us. August? I asked, voice weak. Richie? Evie? He replied, looking between the two of us. Evie? My eyes landed on the girl with glasses again. Then it clicked. She was his handler. I just didn't recognize her so dressed down. She was cute without makeup and beautiful with it on. I honestly didn't know which look suited her more. What a coincidence. The three of us said at once. Evie took a step back, shocked. We all had the same train of thought. I only said it because I knew August would, but really, what are the chances? I asked him. He looked me over. His cheerful expression didn't change even though I was in rough shape. I have been doing a lot of jobs. So, running into me when monsters are involved is going to happen a lot. The chances of them coming to this store while you are here? Bad luck on your part. August commented, I just wanted a nice coat. I grumbled. Pain shot up my arm when something touched my bad hand. I looked down to see the bat creature staring up at me. I used my good hand to pet his head, thinking he was cute in the same way pugs were. Evie thought the same because she dropped to her knees to wrap her arms around the creature. Bats are so fucking cute. She told us, we ruined a store but took 2 monsters off the street. And 1 thief too. I almost forgot about him. The poor guy probably would have preferred to be arrested. Now that the creature was free, Evie had connections to arrange a better life for him. We sure did trash the store though. And yes, it wasn't just me. It was a group effort. Evie got up to start talking to the cashier about what would happen next. She was safe. There was an organization that would cover up the damage and the events of the day. Therapy would be offered. Stuff like that. Your arm got messed up. Give me some of that. August said as he offered his hand for me to take. I hesitated, not wanting to transfer some of the tainted magic painfully sitting in my flesh to him. Then I thought back to how he was more than happy to eat me when we first met and took his hand. Transferring erratic magic hurt more than I expected. He pulled away, only able to take half the burden. If we pushed it, we risked the power reacting in a weird way. Normally magic was a stable power source. You needed to use your will to make it react. Sludgy dark magic had a mind of its own and liked to inflict harm to whoever dared use it. August shook his hand in pain. His body was more equipped to process magic than mine. He would recover in a day. My hand would be back to normal in a few weeks. His shirt collar had been torn open from the fight that brought the injured man and the smaller creature into this store. He had already healed, but his clothing showed damage. His black ring stood out against his pale skin. His leash had been made far more skillfully than the bat creature's. I doubted I could break his collar. If I did, the blowback would kill me. Do you want to come over for dinner? He offered, mostly hoping I would cook again. Not tonight. My hand hurts too much. I shrugged. We'll order something. That was tempting. I glanced at the black ring around his neck again, realizing that even if it was somehow removed, August gained another leash. The love for a small human boy kept him fighting. He'd been tied down into a dangerous life killing monsters like himself, and he was happy to do it. Here. Out of nowhere, the cashier came up to me and shoved a pile of clothing into my arms. It hurt to take a hold of them. August reached over to help with my burden. Considering what happened, I don't think the company is going to miss a few things. Take whatever you want, she said, acting oddly calm considering what happened. She did work in customer service. I bet today beat getting yelled at by angry customers for 8 hours. I almost felt bad taking what she offered. Then again, I wouldn't be able to afford any of these sweaters and jackets otherwise. I thanked her and decided to donate anything that might not fit. I did go over to see Lucas and get a free meal. Maybe I could offer to babysit as a source of income instead of hunting down mushroom monsters in the woods. When Lucas gifted me another drawing, I considered looking after him for free if asked. When I got home that night, I looked over my hard-earned pile of new sweaters and the nicest jacket I've ever owned. The stitching was top class, the fabric was sturdy, and even my ignorant brain could tell it was extremely fashionable. I looked it over, feeling expensive quality for the first time. The light brown jacket had one problem. The cashier forgot to remove the security tag. Seriously, what bad luck.
Until next time, subscribe to stay up to date with all updates. No screamers or shocking moments, only comfort and safety. Bye.